Hi Monique, how are you doing today?
I'm really fine, Josh. This is fantastic, this event. Really thrilled to be here.
And how are you finding solar?
I'm finding it even more dynamic since the last time I was here, which was in 2014. So
Yeah, it changes quickly.
Changes really quickly, and it's really, really exciting to be here.
That's great, and thank you for joining us today on Gloucester TV. As you know, and all of the audience at home know, you are one of our coveted advisors for the project. So we'd like to explain a little bit to our audience what it is that Monique Morrow is going to be doing in the Hycon project.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be one of the advisors in the Hycon project. And fundamentally, one of the most important things that I'm going to be doing is not only amplifying what Hycon is doing, not from a service perspective, an architectural perspective, but also double-clicking further on how do you connect those opportunities globally. For example, outside of South Korea, perhaps in Switzerland. As we know, we have a colleague who's also an advisor who's in Germany. And I think that intersectionality between geographies and architecture and all of the wonderful things that come out of it is really where I'm going to be focused on as your senior advisor.
Now, as a woman in tech, you are special because there were not many when you first started, and you were a trailblazer, and hopefully you can introduce more women into the blockchain space. So that's one of your passion projects. Would you like to share more about that?
Yes, indeed, Josh. It's a very big passion project because if we don't have a representation, if you will, not only of diverse mindsets but also people, I think what will happen is that we will be dangerous echo chambers of ourselves. So it is true, it's very important that we get more women in the blockchain space, especially where you can have more of a 50-50 ratio in terms of representation, because women are quite a bit involved in not only the investment but also in the technology development itself. So I welcome that this is an opportunity more and more for what we can do, Hycon together, is to get much more women involved in this space, because I think that people would be really pleasantly, not surprised, but welcome of what is going to happen in terms of product, in terms of services, and so on. So if we can come in and not have just an all male representation in some of these conferences and some of these events, which, by the way, I'm pleasantly surprised that is not the case here. We're on our way to on a good trajectory. So, indeed.
So one of the things that you'll be helping Hycon do is with the CSR, which is corporate social responsibility. So what inspires you about blockchain and CSR?
I think what's very, very important is the social good. And what inspires me is the fact that it's not just about making money for money's per se, but also what brings a benefit for society. When we know that what we can do as a benefit for society, all of the things that you think about in terms of revenue or in terms of for purpose will come to play. There are many underserved communities globally that really require, I think, help in the space that we're in. If we're thinking about digital identities and identity sets as an example of that, if we think about how you offer these sets of technologies to people who don't have it, such that it makes their lives easier, that's really, really fantastic. We need to be cognizant, because it doesn't take long before your brand can be tainted if you're not serving good. And it really is about bringing benefit to those people who need it. So that's the really great opportunity that I have working with the Hycon team.
And how does your experience as former CTO of Cisco, which is a big technology company, help you in assisting the blockchain industry develop into a full-scale industry?
Well, it's a great question, because what that means is that from a big company perspective, You have always been looking at how you're enterprising, quote unquote, these sets of technologies that require, would result in new pivots in the industry for the sake of the industry or for the sake of the enterprises. I think what it means for me from a perspective of blockchain as an industry is the industry is wide, it's open to everybody. And I think that to provide that inclusion, not just from an enterprise perspective, because that's one part, a government perspective is another part, and I think also most importantly is going to be around the consumer. The consumer at the end of the day shouldn't care what the technology is, it should just work. And it should bring a benefit, and we're in early stages at that point, and this is what we've been talking about, coming in from a big company perspective, is trying to hide the complexity of what it is you're doing such that it becomes very easy to use and you're not even thinking about that technology because it serves a purpose for you in society.
Now, I know that you live in Switzerland, and
Yeah.
Switzerland is now a hotbed of cryptocurrency and blockchain. How do you see Switzerland helping Korea become a hotbed of its own?
Oh, I think there's a lot to be said between the two countries. Switzerland has also made it very, very clear that they want to, that the governments want to work together, at least internally in Switzerland. The federal government, the state governments really want to work together to inspire this kind of innovative thinking around blockchain. It is really an opportunity between Switzerland and South Korea to actually have that intersectionality because there's so much happening here. And it's happening fast. And I think there is a lot to be learned from a Swiss perspective of what's happening in South Korea with the GOS for Hycon team leadership under Mr. Tae-Won Kim, and I think and team, and I think there's a lot to be learned in terms of what's happening in terms of advocating with the government, universities, and training, and vice versa. I see that as a perfect opportunity in terms of providing those intersectionality of great learnings between the two countries.
And could you tell us a little bit more about Monique Morrow's book?
Right. Well, it's working on a book with two principal co-authors, and I have at least four contributors to the book. It's called the Humanized Internet. So the Humanized Internet is not only the name of the nonprofit that I co-lead, or I'm a president and co-founder, but it's also about bringing humanization, if you will, to the internet, to what it is we do. So you touched upon social good, that's one aspect of it. Digital identity sets are really important. The question of asking whether or not you're in control of your identity is really key. And underpinning that has to be some level of privacy and security. So we're looking at writing this narrative together about what needs to be done better for the industry as a whole, because we're really looking at bringing back what it should be to the consumer. That is around humanization of our internet instead of a centralization of our internet.
Thank you very much for your time today. I hope you have a great weekend.
My pleasure, and once again, thank you.